What I'm going to do this evening is tell you a story about a job that started almost 12 years ago. And I'll lead you through what I remember transpired in that time. This is a game management plan. And I'll tell you how it got this where it is now. It's 175 pages. It has 70 illustrations, 90 references, and 9 recommendations. So, that's Aldo Leopold. For those of you who don't know him, was one of the fathers of conservation, along with Teddy Roosevelt. So in late 2007, a group of hunters from this island met at Waimea with the DLNR forestry and wildlife people. This was the, Scott Fretz was new at being a wildlife program manager. He had just come aboard. And the hunters requested that a plan be developed so we could sustainably manage Hawaii's game resources. In early 2008, a working group was established. It was composed of DLNR representatives and island hunters. It was determined early in the meetings that this probably would never get done unless we had dedicated leadership. So a job description was written for a game management planner. And one was hired. The scope of the plan was limited to Hawaii Island. Early in the discussions of trying to develop a scope for the plan, we reviewed the hunting rules, and at that time it was determined that that would be such a big issue to revise that we set it aside to stay focused on the game management plan. From 2008 to 2010, we developed what was going to go into the plan. We worked on individual sections, and at the conclusion of finishing each section, we had a review meeting. We all sat down face to face, and there were 12 such meetings held over the course of that 2008-2010. We discussed all of the animals, as I mentioned, the land resources. We did a section on the economics of hunting. We talked about the human resources that were available and developed goals and objectives, et cetera. And there's the recommendations, the references, all the rules we looked at, and all the illustrations. From April 2010 to April 2017, nothing happened. The plan was submitted and it disappeared. And every once in a while we would ask about what was going on, and we never got any kind of response. Meanwhile, the working group diminished. Some people died, some left. This was the original working group. You can see the disposition, the ones that died. You'll notice that DLNR was a viable contributor to the plan. I listed the names of those that contributed. And in April of 2017, we got emailed the survivors of the working group were emailed a revised version of this game management plan. We just got it, and there was no discussion on what we were supposed to do with it or were they going to have meetings or whatever. Again, the original plan was developed by the working group of hunters and DLNR, but it was modified without any notation of where the changes occurred. We tried to go through and compare the original plan with the modified version using some software that went page. You could look at both pages and it would tell you what had changed. It didn't work. We got about page 3 and it blew up because the plan was just all shuffled. Couldn't follow, and there was no pagination on any of the new stuff. It appeared that the current DLNR staff opinions significantly differed from the DLNR members that participated in the original draft. And as I mentioned, as presented, the revised version of the plan was, we couldn't do anything with it. It appeared that there were a number of PC insertions that provided no discernible benefit to the management of the game resource. There was stuff in there that I have no idea why it was stuck in a game management plan. In March of 2018, there was a state GMAC meeting held in Hilo. The game management plan was one of the items on the agenda. The current DOFAL administrator said that that DLNR didn't really need a plan. They had a hunting program, and a couple of us kind of jumped on him for that. That makes no sense. A hunting program is part of a management plan. It isn't a management plan. So the chair, the GMAC chair recommended a minimum of 4 DLNR and plan participant follow-up meetings. That was what came out of the GMAC meeting. In May of 2018, Tom Lodge and I were the only ones that didn't have work commitments during it for a day meeting. We met with DLNR. We were told there would be no management plan for mammals and that the game bird plan would be contracted to an outside source. It wasn't what we hoped to hear, and the meeting ended abruptly with no follow-up. That gets us here.
Okay, so thank you, Richard.
Okay.
That was really right to the point.
Mr. Hofflinger, can you briefly just summarize some of the 9 recommendations that was originally made?
Well, you caught me unawares, and I'm going to have to look it up. Number 1, establish an effective game management program. Number 2, facilitate cooperative management. Number 3, quantitatively analyze game animal populations. Number 4, characterize available game habitat. Number 5, remove legislative impediments. Number 6, revise hunting rules. Number 7, reorganize the hunter education program. Number 8, develop standard operating procedures. Number 9, publish a hunting newsletter. Number 9 did get done. There is now a newsletter on the web that you can, I don't think anything else happened.
At the time, there was no other push besides you and Tom to follow up on the meetings or anything like.
I know of nothing other than and that Nani indicated she got a telephone call from DLNR indicating some work was going to go on. I received an email from Mr. Masuda who kind of said the same thing, but I don't know what that's going to be.
This is Teresa. My question is, why aren't we doing anything? Why aren't we acting upon this as our project, as game management?
Who is we?
The commissioners.
Well,
I mean, I don't have a copy of that. and yet in the front cover, excuse me, may I? The front cover, it says, "Do not distribute."
That's
I don't
correct.
understand that. We are here as commission members, and we cannot be receiving a copy of this?
You're asking the wrong person, ma'am. I can't answer that question.
As you being part of the working group, why hasn't that been?
The plan is unpublished, ma'am. It was never published.
It was never
It's-
published.
It's property of DLNR.
It's a property of DLNR.
That's correct.
And the original copy is whose property? The original.
That's all belongs to DLNR. DLNR funded the development of the plan.
So, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Donnie.
So Shia told me that they were going to follow the original draft plan of 2008, 2010. That's what
If you're asking me
Yeah, no,
what Shia's going to do, I can't
No,
answer
I'm not
that.
asking. I'm just saying as something to bounce off of for questions. So is that what you guys heard?
Mr. Hofflinger Grayson, one more question. What are some personal takeaway lessons you've taken from this whole process?
What lessons did I take from the process? Is that
Yes.
the question?
Yes.
I guess I'd rather not say.
So we were instructed by Kanalu Sprout DLNR. We were instructed by our administration to basically update, because the plan is so old, to basically update it, but to use the current plan as the framework for the update. That's what we were instructed to do.
You mean the 2015?
So they started drafting this plan in 2012. No, 2008, right?
Yes.
But like I said, we were instructed to just update it because some time has passed, but to use the existing framework of the plan. So basically use what's there and just update it with current goals and objectives and current information. That's what we were told to do.
Kanalu Teresa, 2008 or 2015?
Well, 2008 is when they started drafting it, right?
The working group, was formed in. The working group was formed in 2008. We had the initial meeting late in 2007.
Oh, George here. Do you plan on collaborating with our commission in establishing the plan?
So we were instructed to draft it internally first, and then bring it to you guys. So our internal draft is just a draft, and then we bring it to you for comments. So yes, but we draft it first. Does that make sense? That's what we were instructed to do.
The one that you're going to work on, is it the original or is it the one that was revised where Richard explained that it had gotten all jumbled and they couldn't even work with it? So which one are you going to start from?
All of them. we were sent all the original. So we have the original and we have the revised version. So we're gonna work with both to make an updated plan.
So what's the time frame of getting all this going? Because if you guys going to draft them, then you'll come back to us, and then we're going to do the whole thing and do our thing, and then back to you guys, and then it's only going to be on tennis
We
game.
we didn't discuss a time
You know
frame.
what I mean?
And I have the same questions.
Okay.
George here. I find it slightly ironic with what Palikapu Deadman said earlier in the meeting, how there's little input that the county gets to do with the state, and then, now we're hearing, okay, DLNR is going to draft this internally and then bring it to us for comment. Seems like...
Or no, aren't you guys going to be working with us? I mean, and the commission on that? Or
We were told to draft it internally.
Yeah.
And then bring it to you for your comments after that.
Where do we put our objection? Seriously,
I
I mean,
don't know.
this is a plan for our people, the people that we represent. DLNR does not represent us. I'm sorry. They're a political entity telling us what to do when it should be us telling them what to do. We should be a part of it. So, what is the message we need to give to DLNR to say it should be a cooperative thing, not a one-sided thing? Because if they're telling you, ordering you to draft something to tell us what to do, that's not our purpose. Our purpose is to be cooperative. Where is the cooperation from DLNR to us? They are responsible to hear us, not we're responsible to hear them. This is such a backwards instruction given to you that we haven't even, I can't even fathom
Teresa, is
that
there a
you've been doing
question?
that. The question would be, how do we object to this?
I would suggest to take those concerns, and this is also what we were counseled, through your state GMAC representative, and so that's Ryan, right, Koatsu. Take those concerns to him, and he can bring it up at the next state GMAC meeting, is what we were instructed. I understand what you're saying. There's other ways that I don't know, but that's how we were instructed to counsel you.
So we as an advisory board are being counseled by the state, and we're the county of Hawaii on our natural resources. You don't have an answer.
I do not. I mean, we're tasked with managing state lands and state resources. And so we, whether you like it or not, have to go by state laws and state rules. And part of that is the State Game Management Advisory Commission. So I would try to work through that.
This is Keen. Who has the authority to make the decision? I'm sorry, Kanalo. I know you gotta take a lot of gas here, but
Give it.
you're a employee, so who has
I take it every time I come.
who has the final authority to make the decision? Is it Bob Masuda or just the person's name? I just like
The
to know.
governor?
The governor. Okay. That's good to know.
I'm glad my boss is here too.
Aloha, Steve Bergfeld with Forestry. I would suggest, if you're asking for a person to talk to go to the chair of our department. And the representative on the state GMAC is First Deputy Bob Masuda. So if you make that recommendation, then between our chairperson, Chair Case, and Deputy Masuda, and our administrator, Dave Smith, those are the three main people that will give direction on things that we're asked to do. Another way to do that is to do it through the State GMAC Commission, which was formed by by state law.
My request is really simple, that a game management plan in the writing of it would be all about sustainable game management, that's what it would be about. And shouldn't it be about sustainable, if it's about our game, it's a management plan for our game, shouldn't it be to sustain them, make a plan that they're sustainable? And the reason I asked you to stay, Richard, is because I wanted to ask you, just in a nutshell, what is good game management?
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you talking to me?
Yes. In a nutshell, what is good game
Well, it's
management?
right here somewhere. All I got to do is find it. Hang on.
I just wanted to be really clear that we want a policy of good game
How's that?
management.
Whoops. Well, I'll read it to you.
Well, your own words are
This
good.
is Aldo Leopold in 1933 in his book Game Management. Game management is the art of making land produce sustained annual crops of wild game for recreational use.
Can it be? Could it?
I suggest that the commission drafts a letter and sends that to our chairperson, describing what you want to see in that plan.
Pretty much did. about it, but
I have a question. What happened to home rule? We're the county GMAC commission. How come we can't make our own home rule to be part of your game management plan? Not you telling us what to do, but we sharing our information with you so we can collectively put a management plan together.
Isn't there, Abraham? Isn't there a constitution, right? Hawaii Constitution that states you guys supposed to protect our game?
Actually, I just seen
that they're
Hawaii-
entrusted. They belong
Yeah.
to the people, and they're
Yeah, it
entrusted.
belongs to the people and it's entrusted. It's constitutional right.
Sure, it's it.
So um why is there going need what I see there is a need of a game management plan, but as far as all the eradications and stuff, I know the part of endangered species and invasive species and all that, but it's a constitutional right that you guys should have stopped the feds from even coming in from the first place and doing all that.
I can't speak to that. I wasn't part of that. That happened a long time ago.
It happened a long time ago, and it also wasn't revised yet either, right?
No,
So it's
I know it
already
was
in our
challenged once
Constitution.
in the early 90s,
Yeah.
and it failed.
And it failed.
Yes.
George here. Going forward now, considering that, are you going to be able to implement that into the plan effectively?
Exactly what are you asking?
What
we're gonna-
Abraham was just talking about.
about protecting game mammals.
Protecting all our game. Protecting Abraham. Protecting all our game, not only our mammals, but our birds, our fish. Constitution says you guys supposed to protect our game management and our resources.
Yeah, we're tasked with that, and we're also tasked with protecting all the species in
All the
Hawaii.
species, yeah. But it's almost like a one-sided thing. Only endangered species get priority over everything else.
Yeah, sometimes that happens.
May I ask? Do you guys know who's going to be in the group that's going to do the next draft? Who are the members?
Myself and Ian were tasked with drafting it,
Oh, so it is, and then you're going to submit
probably
it.
in conjunction with Shaya. So working together.
This is Teresa. So are you going to incorporate our Article 12, Section 7 and the other constitutional rights to protect our game animals? I mean, you have to look at that.
I need to. I don't know. I can look that up. I don't know that article. I'm sorry that I don't. But yeah, I mean, if it's
I mean,
appropriate, I don't see why not. But I don't know what that article states.
So
And-
it's something that you need to look into.
Yes. So Article 12, Section 7.
Article 12, Section 7, and there's others.
Okay.
Okay. And do you have the number, Abraham, of the protected game animals that you were talking about?
Looking for them right now.
This is Calais. That's HSC Article 11, Section 1.
Before I leave, Nani, if I could make a recommendation to all of you people, you will never get a game management plan without an appointed leader to get the job done. It'll never happen. You have to have dedicated leadership to get it done. That's number one. Number two, the output of a group is inversely proportional to the number of people that participate in it. So think about it.
I agree with you. Thank you.
Thank
you for your
Thank-
suggestion,
Thank you so
Richard.
much, Richard. Thank you so much.
That was Teresa.
So what you guys are saying is like we're out and the state game management is in, and whatever influence we might have as a county commission, we have to go through the state commission. Is that what you said?
I wouldn't say that you're out. What I'm saying is that our department is responsible to the state GMAC commission by the statute that was put together. But we also, us on Hawaii Island that work here, we've been working with County GMAC since the inception, and we hear your voice because we understand that it's the same as what other people are voicing at the state GMAC. So it's not like we're not gonna listen to what your recommendations are. But that's an official avenue of putting forth your thoughts and ideas to our administration.
Yeah, if I can make comment real quick. And so we're drafting it internally, but before it ever goes out into, I guess, being applied, we bring it to you. So we are asking for your comments and revisions. We just are going to draft it first. Does that make sense? And then, but before we ever start doing anything and applying those things internally, we bring it to you and ask for your comments and your. It's not exactly as you want it, which I understand, but it's not. We're not keeping you out of the loop completely. Does that make sense? And if not, I can try again.
Is it normally
Abraham,
to
yeah,
have a
please
plan?
try again.
Is it normal to have a plan? Oh, sorry, was that a question?
He asked me to try again. So we're gonna draft our plan internally, and then bring it to you for your review and comments before we start applying it, and then implement. Address your comments. Maybe put make changes accordingly. So that's what we were told to do.
Is it normal that the department creates and drafts its own rules or plans before it is presented to the public?
I would say it's normal to just put together a framework of what staff thinks the plan should be, and then it's put out to comment after that, and then that's when we take into account everyone else's comments.
And so if there were high objections to the plan and the plan moves forward, where does it leave the hunters or people involved in that community?
Well, I think part of the process is that we take those comments into consideration, and if no one can support the plan, then, because this plan, I would believe, would be taken to the board for approval, the Board of Land and Natural Resources. So,
This is
George
Teresa.
here.
I'm sorry, George. This is Teresa. I'm confused. The initial working group was both parties. Now, why isn't there a task force within your order of saying, by the way, boss, we should include the hunters and not just us? Because the initial working management plan that was submitted to you folks was done by both parties. So why can't we have the same situation? The same working group, with new faces, of course, but the template is there. You have a template. We want to be a part of it. That is something you need to deliver to your boss. The original template was done with two parties, not just by one party. It's ironic that you come back to us and say, we're better than you. I feel that that's how it's coming from the top, not you two, but the top of you two. I feel that they say, we're better than you, so we're going to do this without you, when the original working template is already there, done by hunters and DLNR. So why can't we have the same situation?
Teresa, these men want to work with us,
I
and
understand.
and
I
they
know it's
they
not
re-
them.
they actually have their hands tied in a lot of ways. It's not.
How can we untie your hands? Seriously, how can we untie your hand? Do we have to go to DAG? Do we have to do a lawsuit? That's what it's coming down to.
I would share your concerns with the two state GMAC representatives for Hawaii Island, and I would also outline that in your letter that I mentioned earlier about describing that to our chairperson, and just say that you want to be a part of this process.
George here. Who has
And like Canalo explained, I mean, you're going to be a part of the process. It's just that they're cleaning up a few things in the plan, and then they're going to ask for your comments. And I would suggest that once it's shared with the county GMAC, then you guys share that with your constituents in each of your districts for their comments.
I would like to make a request when you guys are sitting down working on this, that as Polikapu mentioned, and it's been mentioned so many times before, is would it include that there would be a count of the game animal and in say any given area, a count that will be protected, that can
Abraham,
remain?
I think they have the game check-in stations that hunters supposed to be checking in is a voluntary process. So the hunters need to go in and sign in. It's for that reason.
Count of the game animal.
Yeah, it's for that reason.
To count the game animal.
Yeah.
That was one of the objectives that Mr. Hofflinger had in his
Yeah.
in that drafted game management plan, and I mean I wouldn't remove that. So, and we do it on some levels for some species already. So
And that maybe
yes,
habitat improvement could possibly be worked through, change the rules and regulations somehow.
modifying habitat for game is something that would definitely require statutory changes.
Right, exactly.
Canalo, Stanley. We need to provide though for these animals. These animals, especially in Puanuulu, Puawa, they're getting sick. They don't have water. I haven't seen the damage that, you know, when you guys come and say, oh, they're eating up the native plants. Well, I haven't seen the damage that you guys claim. I mean, the llama trees that grow in there, the ohia, I don't see them being debarked or they browse on them, but, you know, I don't see any damage as far as that. They're mostly whacking the small young grasses coming up, but they need water because they're sick. Something got to be done now to. It's just like cruelty to animals. What is happening?
Steve,
Okay.
this is Keen. My question is in the 50 states in the United States, but we're the only state that does not have a game management plan. Are you familiar with that, or is that something that I'm incorrect?
I don't know the answer to that.
As far as the content of the plan, is there any changes from 2008 that you want us that from the 2008 draft or whatever? It sounds like there was like 5 different plans that were created, but whatever drafts there are, is there like content we can look at before you guys start creating your own draft? And what changes do you plan on making?
I'm not ready to start talking about changes or anything because the last time I read that was about 2 years ago. There were things that stuck out in my mind that. So one of the objectives was to change or to get rid of statutory limitations. I'm not saying that's wrong. That's a lot easier said than done, basically. And so I don't know if I would remove that or if I would word it differently, but removing statutory limitations on what we are allowed to do as an agency or not is not just wave a wand and it happens. So there were a lot of things that were very similar to that things that really are out of our control as an agency, things that we cannot do. So I would look at revising those things. Sorry, like I said, I read that plan a couple years ago, so I can't go into details on it, and I'm not ready to say what I want to change now. I would say, I mean, we should have a discussion internally about what kind of time frame we can have to get a draft back to you guys, and so maybe by your next meeting we can have a time frame. I'm sorry, I'm committing myself. It's not a good thing, but maybe that is a good thing.
Okay.
Probably a couple Deadman. I'd like to say a little bit about our lawsuit that we had against DLNR, and that was a Kou fencing in Kou. And they did a study, and they were talking about fencing off for about 14 miles and putting little ladders over the fence for the hunters. But then again, it's like shooting fish in an aquarium. You know, you hunt between the fence till you don't want nothing left. That was the idea of how to use the hunter to be part of the eradication program by giving them that kind of ideas. They came into the community, DLNR, and talked and hired LLC people because they had to do an EA, a study about what the impact's going to be in that forest. And it was state land, so it belonged to everybody, not just DLNR. So we took it all the way up to the Supreme Court. And by the time we took it to the Supreme Court, took about 3 years. And in those 3 years, DLNR took a lot of our arguments and created bills that years to answer and plug all the pukas because we had a lot of strong arguments about their neglect. So they took our arguments and started correcting them at DLNR by passing bills to correct them before we get to the end of the court case, which was 3 years down the road. So they took a lot of our comments and fixed up their books real quick or changed a lot of their policies because they made a lot of sense. The eradication program they had in killing the rats. So they had that, what do they call that? It's a green type of poison. And they used pellets. They used that pellets to kill the rats, but then the eel eats the rats, the owls eat the rats. So they were killing their own native birds that they had laws of protection. Then the hunters would catch pigs, cut the old pool open, and they would see the green pellets inside. So it was called emerald green, I think, they used, and there's emerald brown. But the green was being used for the rats. But that's an agent that goes inactive when you drink water. So the pigs would run down to we get water, the river, the creeks, whatever, and they would drink that and activate, and a lot of them would die. So the contaminants of what going in the water from what DLNR was creating. So anyhow, while that lawsuit was going on, it was to protect all the bird. So they was going to make 14 miles of fence for one bird when your bird needs cages, not fences. But the idea was to get $10 million to do this project. We went after the DLNR, all the way up to the Supreme Court, and we lost at the Supreme Court. They said that they have a right to regulate our rights as Hawaiians, the state, and our rights to these protection of the resources. But the idea was we lost the lawsuit, but that project didn't happen. So they lost the project. Because of our lawsuit, they moved that all bird someplace else. And I think the eel's number one predator is the owl bird from growing up time. We knew that the cowboys used to tell us a lot that they would see the eel wrapping all these black ravens or crows because they were invasive looking to them. They eat the other birds, but they never eat the crow. So that was wiping out the crows. And the other wipeout was shooting them. We'd get rid of them by shooting them because they was taking up the aina or taking up our place of hunting, and there was all science over Hawaiians. Over gathering rights. That's years ago. So I know that the process of DLNR going out and making rules per se, if it's rulemaking, Chapter 31 or Chapter 13 rulemaking, then that's not them making laws, they're making policy. And when you make policy or rules, you got to go out and do public hearings. And the public hearings got to give input before they go back and write up stuff. Not they write them and they give them to you and ask for your comments. The public give comments. Then they get all the comments back. And then they do the draft. When there's a problem in the draft like we challenge, that's when you get into the draft stage. You got 30 days to make this argument in the draft. Then when you don't address your comments in the draft, you get to put it, they'll put it into the final. Then when it gets to the final of you not getting yours addressed, now you got 30 days to take them to litigation. So that's why we took them to court. All our lawsuits at Petty Defense Fund has been against DLNR. It's never really been against private people. It's the process of DLNR and the permits that they give, and it's all about science and not about subsistence. So you got to be strong about saying, I don't care what you say. We're a government agency. We get paid by the taxpayer. And I saw your charter. The taxpayer put you in this position, not the mayor, not the governor. So you got to stand up for those people that you put you in this position and challenge these people, DLNR. I'm embarrassed that I pay these guys my hard work tax dollar, and they shortchange all the guys on this island because they get a comfortable job. That's the name of the game. Comfort, got a good job, really no care inside about where they live and the resources. If they do, they wouldn't be doing this.
So,
They really care.
so Polly, if they're taking orders from their from their boss, isn't that who we should be addressing
Sure,
this?
sure. I would address Susan Case a lot. I'd give in front of her face as much as possible. These guys are staff people. I would be dealing because of your level all at the top and not with this.
Yeah,
This is
because-
what you're going to hear all the time. Dime a dozen saying the same thing over and over just for job comfort. They're not going to really take care of nothing.
So would you suggest to us that we address this as to how we address this? Because as Polly says, that the next level that we address wouldn't be you because you're just taking orders, as you say.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that earlier, and Palikapu agrees with me on that. That's who you should be addressing your comments to, as far as our chairperson, our administrator, and send that letter, like I suggested, through your GMAC representative for the state, and then also directly to the chairperson.
And one thing I saw lack was there wasn't nothing about gathering rights, Article 12, Section 7. And it's embarrassing that you guys work for DLNR and you don't know those rights. It's all about native gathering rights. And we only gather in the beach, down a beach, or in a forest. We don't gather in neighborhoods. So it should be something you guys should be on already, off the top. And when you make policies, look if there's conflict. No, ignore them, and then we got to go court. You know it's a rule. Look at that and see if it applies and not bang each other when you make your process. So no more this kind of humbug. You already went do your homework. And that's what you're supposed to be doing. Sad that you still hear this stuff in 2000 like this at this time when this was like the 80s. We're raising a lot of these concerns and never grow, man. I see the department doesn't grow. So you gotta be more strong, no scared. You submit your own management plan and let them go like this and figure out what's this, what's that, what's this, what that. But don't accept theirs at the last part and then they try to fit you in with your concerns. You should be up front, be part of the whole planning. If not, plan yourself and then give it to them. So that when they do their plan, you got yours already that they gotta incorporate in the draft. No scared, I mean,
Polly, would you be part of our planning?
yeah, if you like.
Thank you, Polly.
I have a real quick question. Terry Napiahi with Pele Defense Fund. Since the last presentation that I have given, there was some conversation with our community, and I heard from the state GMAC regarding the fact that, and conversation about there isn't a state management plan because that was stated in my last presentation. And then someone from, a worker, an employee from DLNR sent me a link to say that they had a game management plan already. So in the conversation, state management, not state management, some of our hunters mentioned that what they actually said that it's not a game management plan. It was more of a control and eradication plan, which is something that they're concerned about. So I think in the thought of having a game management plan, that is one of the biggest concerns our hunters have. Is it just to control and eradicate? And also the fact that I didn't hear anything about our subsistence gathering. I heard recreational hunting, nothing about subsistence gathering, which I think is important, which is Article 12 Section 7. Very important because that's Constitution. It's not a rule and regulation. And that's all I wanted to point out. Okay?
Thank you, Terry.
George here. Now, hearing about all these different concerns, both from the public and from our commission, are you going to take that into account when writing and drafting the game management plan going forwards?
Of course.
And then go ahead, press the red button and just state your name for the record.
My name is Danny Idos. I try to come to a lot of these GMAC meetings. I went to some several years ago. There's a lot of new faces. But I did bring up something in a previous GMAC meeting several years ago when DLNR was here that was never touched on. And I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of my hunter friends. I'm just to let you know that I'm a pig hunter, bird hunter, a fisherman, bow hunter. I hunted pretty much all over this island, and people that have been hunting here long enough have a concern, and it's brought to my attention about my question to DLNR is what's being done about the invasive weeds that are overtaking our prime hunting grounds. I mean, all you got to do is go over there to Mauna Kea or drive on Saddle Road, and you see these. It looks deceiving. It looks like green, but it's these vines that are just overtaking our prime hunting spots. These are hunting areas that used to have a lot of goats, a lot of sheep, a lot of birds, and so all we have left are these grounds that have no game. Because I know in the mainland, where they do real game management, they do things to sustain the game there. Not only water, but they do like control burns. Some places for deer they put food plots. But just like Mr. Omita brought up, I think Hawaii is the only place that doesn't have real game management. And I'm just a simple hunter here, but I'm really concerned because, and that's why I try to go to these GMAC meetings, is because it affects all of us hunters and fishermen. So I really don't know if they have an answer, but the last time that I did ask DLNR that question, their response was, well, we do some mowing. And we got laughter in the audience, and Brother Hofflinger that just left, his response was, bring in the goats. You know, he's trying to be funny, but seriously, what could be done about the invasive weeds? It's something that we should be discussing because it doesn't seem to be touched on. And I wasn't planning to come up here, but I just wanted to bring that up.
This is
something that could be added to the game management if that ever happens.
This is Teresa.
Hi, Teresa.
Earlier, our lack of knowing what is out there, what has happened in the past, and our hunters sharing it with DLNR, their knowledge, it fell on deaf ears. And because we didn't have science with us, and maybe now we can share more information with DLNR, and maybe they already knew that, but didn't want to listen. But we'll have a guest speaker next month talking about goats. Having goats back into those areas to clear out invasive weeds. I hope DLNR has science behind that, but if you don't, then maybe we should look in other areas that possibly may have answers for us. I mean, does DLNR know about goats and weeds and how they take care of an area?
I know we've seen that, and Kapapala Ranch uses managed goat herds to control guava and other weeds to improve grazing habitat. And Dick has shared with me recently some information on how they use goats for fuel breaks and stuff on the mainland.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like to share a little bit ahead of time about
Danny.
that? No, I don't know their
I'm
name.
sorry. There's Mark Carvillo in the back there that's going to be our guest speaker, and he raises goats to take care what a lawnmower would do, but he does it in a natural way. So, Mark, you want to? I know you're not prepared because you're not on until next month, but just a little bit of information, Mark, of what you've discovered that your goats do.
For the draft game management plan.
Ano po ng livestock and land maintenance. Just a quick one about the goats and sheep. They are very useful, helping us take care of our land in natural ways. I do have a lot of research, which I have done with UH and other organizations, that we do have proof that my livestock can clear native forests without disturbing the native plants. They'll take out invasive trees, grass, vegetations, and if you utilize the right animals in the right places, you can make this work. So hopefully I could, give you guys a few insights on how things are work with the animals like that, because it is a very touchy situation due to native plants, animal numbers, and all that. So it's going to take a lot of strategies and...
It's probably pretty intensive, yeah?
Yes. But it can be done.
Yeah.
It can be done, and I have proof. And hopefully next month I get to share with you guys all these documents, pictures, and so forth, what we have done.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.